Disturbia is a fantastic film that I grew up watching Disturbia when I was younger, but now going back to rewatch it, it is a timeless classic with yes, it's not perfect. It has a couple there are a couple flaws in Disturbia, but overall it is a great time if you want a thriller and some horror. I'll say at the end there is definitely some horror at the end. It is a classic film that I can honestly rewatch at least every few years. Not every year I go back, but I went back and it is I went back like I went back and it is really timeless. Like every time I watch it, like there's some stuff that's like, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't know why that's in it. And then there's stuff that's like, that's awesome. I'm glad that's in it. And some people say, and I agree, that Shia Labeouf hasn't done as much recently and hasn't, kind of has done weird stuff in his personal life, I guess. But like in his prime, like this is one of his best performances, to be honest. And he is a really good actor. Even if you don't like him, he is a really good actor in this film. And this is when he was really, late 2000s. He was doing a lot of stuff, and this is a classic performance for him because this is like you actually care for the character in this film. So because you care for the character, you care about him, you know, escaping and finding the killer if there is one. No spoiler here in this video, but there basically is. The plot is very similar to the classic from 1954 Rear Window, which that is basically it's not as good as that because that's an all-time classic. That's one of the best films ever made, and this is not the best film ever. As I said, this is not like you know a perfect film, but it's a classic. Like it's a really fun version. It's like still a great film, but not like as perfect as that one, because that one was just so perfect. But this is like a modern take, and this is not even that new. This is actually kind of old. I mean, '07's not really that long ago, but '07, it's not new. '07's not old, but really, could say it's over a decade now. You could say modern day classic, or hell, not even modern day, just a classic in general. This film for me is a classic film because it's very rewatch. It's not a film where you can't rewatch it. You can rewatch it. You can rewatch it many times over and over. And honestly, a lot of the dialogue for comedy also works. A lot of the because there's comedy. There's very good comedy in this film. The comedy, for some reason, the writing in this film is very solid. The jokes actually land. The jokes for me, they all work. In the first half of the film, there's pretty funny stuff. There's pretty heartbreaking stuff. Again, I won't get into it, but there's stuff he has to deal with. But yeah, he can't like go out like on the street because it's like house arrest or whatever. So he can't run. So he has to find a way to do anything, and he can't do anything really. So he has nothing to do, and he sees his neighbor. So he's very suspicious about this neighbor, which is basically yeah a rear window. Like most stuff is pretty much rear window, but again, this is very good. Just because it's like it doesn't mean it's good at all, or not good. It's very good, and the killer is also very good when he has to like act and he talks to people. He's very good. He's very creepy. He really feels like a killer. Like you're actually scared when he's on screen. So very good performance by pretty much almost everybody. And so they set up cameras. He meets a girlfriend too and stuff. There's a neighbor that moves in, so they start spying, and he has a friend that spies as well. So there's three basically teenagers that spy on this neighbor, and they keep thinking maybe he's not really a killer or something, or maybe he's not hiding stuff. 'Cause he's always the only one that believes it. And then some parts he starts thinking maybe he's not a killer and he's just doing things that look suspicious and all this stuff that you know you question. Now it's like you clearly think he's a killer. You clearly see stuff that's like, okay, how are we seeing stuff if he's not, you know, if he's suspicious? How come this stuff's happening? That's basically one of the things about it. It's a great thriller. It's a great time if you want a suspense thriller. This is a thriller you must be seeing because it is just a very fun time. It's a very fun time because there's not too many films. There's barely any films like this, and this is really like just a really good film that if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. You should watch Disturbia because it's very good. And rewatching it again is just I don't really find much bored parts. I find myself very entertained every time I watch this movie. So I think you should watch it. And it's one of Shia LaBeouf's best performances, I think. And he's very likable in this film, despite you know sometimes he does bad things, but you understand why. And so it's a classic teenager film that is just very timeless. Again, clear flaws, clear things that don't work, but I'd probably give it around an 8. I don't know. I wouldn't give it a 9. It's not that level, but it's an 8 out of 10, around there. So, yeah, I really enjoy it every time I watch it. I think anybody that wants a thriller, anybody that wants to watch a thriller that's really good, this is a film you should watch. And it's, for me, a film I've seen really for years. And I always go back to it. And I'm a huge fan of obviously Hitchcock films because they're super suspenseful, and this is super suspenseful with, again, there's some comedy. There's a lot of comedy though. Like there's some comedy where I'm like, that is fucking really. There's some comedy. There's a lot of comedy there's some comedy I like. So it's a mix of the comedy and a mix of the suspense, which just works perfectly. So I recommend for everybody to watch it, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.